how are you? I actually had a conversation today at the Warner Theater with their relatively new executive director, Rufus Durham, in which we sort of decided that maybe we need to just let go of that question for a little while, because I think we're all feeling a little cranky. It's been a rough week after a rough few months. But I do feel on the positive side a little bit refreshed today because I had so many positive and pragmatic conversations, which feel a little bit like that, the air after a storm is cleaner and fresher and people are thinking positively, and there's a shift. The shift in terms of storm damage right now is shifting from Eversource and power to other utilities, Comcast, Optimum, Frontier, in terms of phone and cable and internet services, and there are still some major issues that need repair there, and that is still going on. But the problems are getting, we're nailing them down one by one, and please, if you're still not connected, please let me know so that I can make sure to add my voice to making sure that you get attention from the people that you deserve to get attention from. I do think. I had two constituents reach out to me today with really positive, great ideas that were all about shifting from the sort of, anger with Eversource, which we can hold that aside for a second. It's not that we're going to completely get rid of accountability for them. That's coming. But moving towards solutions that can help make Eversource into a better community partner and align their interests with those of the community, and how to build relationships so that next time around we have a tighter connection and their interests are more closely aligned with the success of our towns. And I mean, I'm sure Eversource right now is thinking about their own corporate reputation, and if the past is a lesson they have in turned around and done some community initiatives following that. And I want to make sure we're part of that conversation, because I think we have some pretty good ideas about what our communities need in order to become more storm resilient going forward. And so I look forward to having conversations with Eversource and other utilities about how to align their interest with ours. We are captive consumers of theirs, and so I think we get a say. And I'm looking forward to those conversations, which I think are already beginning, not just with constituents, but also with people at the utilities with whom I'm speaking. I do want to point out, though, that there will be hearings. I've put this on Facebook posts before, and I'll put it in the newsletter tomorrow. Again, I think it was in the newsletter earlier this week. There is a PURA, which is the Public Utility Regulatory Authority, will be conducting a hearing about the Eversource rate increase and storm response. And that will be on August 24th at 10 o'clock. You can submit emailed testimony to that at pura.information@ct.gov. There's also a way to register to participate by Zoom, but you'll be able to watch it by CTN as well. And I really recommend that please keep track of the things that happened along the way so that we can try to fix these things as much as possible. There will also be, that's just one of the hearings that's coming. There will also be a legislative hearing that that the Energy and Technology Committee will schedule. They haven't done so yet. That will be leading into whatever legislative solution we think is a good way to realign incentives so that the incentives of our public utility are aligned with the incentives and the success of our communities. And I think there's work to do, and I think there are also some very good ideas to get that going as well. I had two other community events that I think really point out, again, how the organizations, not just the people in our communities and the organizations in our communities, are really coming together to try to come up with some really innovative and good solutions that help all of us. I had an event at Community Health and Wellness in Torrington as part of National Health Center Week, at which so many local community organizations, which are just dedicated to helping out people in our communities, were there. And Friendly Hands Food Bank, which has their own produce drop now every week, and helped us arrange one for at the high school recently. Was there were people there from the Census. Please fill out the census if you haven't done so. My son is now an enumerator, so it's possible he may be knocking on your door. There were people there from the food bank, the Census, New Opportunities. Lots of great organizations were there to talk to people and to help get people the resources they need in order to weather not just the storm, but the pandemic, which is still affecting all of us. Another one I went to today, which I referred to earlier, was at the Warner Theater with Rufus Rahm, who's the new executive director there. And it was there, we met with Senator Blumenthal, who is pushing for a federal bill called Save Our Stages, which is part of a coronavirus relief package, which would provide grants or possibly long-term loans for performing arts institutions and venues. And we talked a lot there about, the Warner in particular, but this is true in other places as well. It is an anchor tenant in downtown Torrington. It is critical to the economic success of the center of that town, in which so many people, both privately and state and federal resources, have been investing in an area that's really poised for rebirth. And we need to keep the Warner and other arts venues like that. We need to give them the resources they need to get through this period, because they were the first to close and they'll be the last to reopen. They just cannot open until you can pack the house, and we're not doing that now. So we talked about that aspect of it, their economic importance to the town, but also at a time when so many of us are feeling so isolated. I myself feel that way. We're tired of Zoom meetings. The pandemic isolates us. Then the storm isolated us, even more for a week. And arts institutions in particular, are so important for our social and emotional health. And keeping them alive is so important. In fact, Rufus told me something which I hadn't heard before, which I'm going to look into, which is in some communities, the idea of social prescriptions, which is to say, rather than getting a pharmaceutical, go to a play. And I thought that was a really interesting idea, because I can't tell you, we all know that connecting with other people really makes us feel better. And I think arts organizations in particular are really poised to help be a part of that, and because they're such important community building institutions. So those were two events that I thought were really fantastic. I wanted to highlight a couple of other events that took place in the last week. I had a great interview with Dr. Ulysses Wu, who is an epidemiologist, and amongst his many titles at Hartford Healthcare, about coronavirus, and particularly as we reopen schools, how it's really important to redouble our efforts. Connecticut has done really well, because I think the governor has done a great job, but we have all been pretty disciplined, and I have several masks sitting in my car. I think I'm down to the medical one now, but people actually wear masks. We are careful about social distancing, and when we forget, we remind one another about it, and it's really important, and it has served us well. And so that conversation with Dr. Wu I did on Facebook Live, but you can pick it up. Many of you, I think, were not online when we did it. We did it on Monday, and I know a lot of people still didn't have power. So that was a good conversation. And then also we had another step forward, I hope, from a legislative perspective. We held a judiciary hearing, which was the first. We had a public hearing, and we had a committee meeting at which we voted. And it was the first legislative committee meeting to take place post-COVID, at which we recorded votes. And it worked pretty successfully. It took a little longer sometimes than it might not, as we worked through some issues, voting takes a little bit longer. But I think it's another example of resilient institutions, and we don't have to be shut down by crises. We can find ways to change and continue to function. And so the last thing I just wanted to mention is, I mentioned this, I think, in the newsletter yesterday, is just, we live in a beautiful area, and it's just, this week has been rough for many of us, a lot of you, I know, and scary for some people who have vulnerable, or medically vulnerable, or who just got stuck behind their driveway and couldn't get out and had no communication. It took a lot out of us. And I said yesterday that my family pried all my devices out of my hand last night and made me go outside and watch the meteor shower. And maybe you can catch it again a little bit tonight. But to get outside, listen to the cicadas and and the birds and breathe deeply. And we'll get through this with helping each other out. We have a lot of great community organizations that are ready to be there for us, and we're going to support each other, and we'll move on to the whatever is next on the list, and as we move forward out of this. So I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you are all energized by power and communication, and have a storm-free weekend. Take care.